Good to go? All right. Whoops, I gotta,
You want me to shut the door or should I leave it open?
yeah, we should probably shut it.
You shut it, there's no chance anyone is gonna find it.
He says, but you put the number.
Like 3 times. Yeah.
Well, I didn't-
It's okay.
I saw that.
It's okay.
Was that it shut or something?
That was me shutting it, just keep the lid.
All right. Start off with the reading section. 1. As Mexico's first president from an indigenous community, Benito Juarez became blank figures in his country's history. Among the many significant accomplishments of his long tenure in office from 1858 to 1872, Juarez consolidated authority of the national government and advanced the rights of indigenous people. So keywords that stick out to me became one of the most blank significant accomplishments. So definitely B. Unpredictable doesn't fit. There's nothing there unpredictable. Secretive, there's nothing there secretive. He's definitely not ordinary because that would be in direct conflict with the later description of significant accomplishments. 2. Due to their often strange images, highly experimental syntax, and opaque subject matter, many of John Ashbery's poems can be quite blank, and thus are the object of heated debate among scholars. Which choice completes the text with the most logical and precise word or phrase? So, experimental syntax, opaque subject matter, quite difficult. Obviously, delegate doesn't really fit. Compose, not really. Renounce, not really. Interpret, it's difficult. It's difficult to interpret. Three, the Cambrian explosion gets its name from the sudden appearance and rapid diversification of animal remains in the fossil record about 540 million years ago during the Cambrian period. Some scientists argue that this blank change in the fossil record might be because of a shift in many organisms to body types that were more likely to be preserved. Which choice completes the text with the most logical and precise word or phrase? So, what stands out here? Sudden appearance, rapid diversification, and then shift, right? So, catastrophic, nothing really catastrophic there. Elusive, nothing really elusive there. Imminent, nothing really imminent there. So it's an abrupt change. 4. During the 2014 archaeological dig in Spain, Vincent Lull and his team uncovered the skeleton of a woman from El Egar, an early Bronze Age society, buried with valuable objects signaling a high position of power. This finding may persuade researchers who have argued that Bronze Age societies were ruled by men to blank, that women may have also held leadership roles. Which choice completes the text with the most logical and precise word or phrase? So what stands out here? Buried with valuable objects, signaling a high position of power, for sure. And this previously contrasts a notion that Bronze Age societies were ruled by men. So what word really connects that idea that it overturns the preconceived notion? So it refutes, right? Waive, no. Concede, no. Require, no. 5. Within baleen whale species, some individuals develop an accessory spleen, a seemingly functionless formation of splenetic tissue outside the normal spleen. Given the formation's greater prevalence among whales known to make deeper dives, some researchers hypothesize that its role isn't blank. Rather, the accessory spleen may actively support diving mechanisms. So it was previously seen as functionless, right? And now they know these whales that have this accessory spleen can make deeper dives. So it isn't useless. It's not, so really we're looking for a word there that is kind of like operative, or the opposite, well, it's, let me rephrase that, it's not operative. It's not dormant. It's the word that would most closely fit with a word that is dormant, it is not dormant. They throw these double negatives here, they're so annoying, is actually latent, right? 6, according to a U.S. tax policy expert, state taxes are blank other factors when considering an interstate move. Even significant differences in taxation have no effect on most people's decisions, while differences in employment opportunity, blank, blah, blah, blah. You don't even need that. Which choice completes the text with the most logical and precise word or phrase? So even significant differences in taxes, one tax is very highly, one state is very highly taxed, one state is California or Florida, that would be a good comparison, right? It's irrelevant to, right? Because it has no impact on whether people decide to move states, right? 7, the author's claim about the relationship between Neanderthals and Homo sapiens is blank, as it fails to account, sticks out to me, for several recent archaeological discoveries. To be convincing, his argument would need to address recent findings, or recent finds of additional hominid fossils, such as the latest Denisovan specimens and Homo longi. Which choice completes the text with the most logical and precise word or phrase? So it's something that fails to account is incomplete, or, you know, let's go through the choice. Disorienting, no, that's not. Nuanced, no. Nuanced would be something that isn't in direct conflict. Unoriginal, I don't see anything unoriginal there. It's tenuous. It's an incomplete explanation of the relationship between the two subjects. 8, the following text is from Georgia Douglas Johnson's 1922 poem, Benediction. Go forth, my son, winged by my heart's desire. Great reaches, yet unknown, await. For your possession, I may not, if I would, retrace the way with you. My pilgrimage is through, but life is calling you. Which choice best states the main purpose of the text? Okay, so this is a gentleman, a father speaking to his son, and really what stands out to me is that last sentence. Anytime you see poetry in the SAT, kind of focus on that last part, because they know that it's really, most of us aren't reading poetry on a daily basis. So that last stanza is really what we want to key in on. So if we focus on that and we look at the choices in front of us, D really stands out to me because the whole essence of this poem is that life is calling his son, and that, you know, he's encouraging him to subsequently embrace the experiences that life offers. 9, the following text is adapted from Indian Boyhood, a 1902 memoir by Charles Eastman, a Santee Dakota writer. In the text, he recalls how the women in his tribe harvested maple syrup during his childhood. Now the women began to test the trees, moving leisurely among them, axe in hand, and striking a single quick blow to see if the sap would appear. The trees, like people, have individual characters. Some were ready to yield their lifeblood, while others were more reluctant. Now one of the birchen basins was set under each tree, and a hardwood ship driven deep into the cut, which irrelevant. Just focus on that underlined sentence. So what does that sentence really kind of call out? Well, there's a personification there, right? Trees, like people, have their individual characters. So the question is asking which choice best describes the function of the underlined sentence in the text as a whole. So this one actually gave me a little bit of trouble when I first saw it because there is that personification, but on some level, there is an activity being described here. And what was the rest? So looking at the choices, the women are going through the forest and making these cuts in the maple trees, and they're really evaluating, which of these trees are going to be, like if you're doing this for a long time and you start to notice characteristics about the maple trees, maybe some of them have bigger circumferences, I don't know. I struggled with this one, so I think we're going to have to come back to this one. I had a little bit trouble kind of parsing this because I thought it was kind of like the personification that's one I had a really kind of tough time with. All right, so anytime we get these really long, stupid comparative texts, a good strategy is to read the question prompt first so that it sets context for, as you're reading each box of text, you can kind of keep that in the back of your head. So reading this first, based on the text, how would Barenfield and his colleagues in text 2 most likely respond to conventional wisdom in text 1? So, okay, let's read text 1. Ecologists have long wondered how thousands of microscopic phytoplankton species can live together near ocean surfaces, competing for the same resources. According to conventional wisdom, one species should emerge after outcompeting the rest. So why do so many species remain? Ecologists, many efforts to explain this phenomenon still haven't uncovered a satisfactory explanation. 2, so his colleagues connected their diversity to microscopic size. Because the organisms are so tiny, they are spaced relatively far apart from each other in the ocean water and blah, blah, blah. Moreover, experience that water as a relatively dense substance. This in turn makes it harder for them to move around and interact with one another. I'm noticing another thing. I'm really killing a lot of time. Let's focus on the last sentence in each one, and what does that do? So his team is saying that there's really not much competition, and that's really why we're seeing the diversity in the species. And the first one says, well, they don't really know as to why conventional wisdom, or according to conventional wisdom, there should be one. They don't, so they didn't have an explanation. So the prompt asks, based on the text, how would the researchers in text 2 likely respond to conventional wisdom discussed in text 1? So text 1 says that they don't really have an explanation. Text 2 says they do have an explanation, and it's because there's less competition than what was previously perceived. So that's what we're looking for in one of the options that they give us, is that we want to find an answer that really calls out the lack of competition. That's really what we have to take away from reading both passages, that there seems to be a lack of competition. So A, well, arguing that is based on misconception, maybe. Yeah, that could be an option. B, fails to recognize routine, no. Suggesting, clarify, compete. There's no reference to larger organisms. D, by recommending that more ecologists focus their research on competition modified increase with water density. There's nothing related to the size of the population and water density, so we're left with A. Okay, so again, passage. Let's read the last part first. According to the text, why would a helicopter built for Earth be unable to fly on Mars? 2014, Amelia and her team at NASA set out to build a helicopter. Because Mars' atmosphere is only 1% as dense as Earth, the air of Mars would not provide enough resistance to the rotating blades of a standard helicopter for the aircraft to stay aloft. For 5 years, Tested designs, craft ultimately designed can fly on Mars because the blades are longer and rotate faster than those of a helicopter of the same size built for Earth. Okay, so Earth has, Mars' atmosphere is only 1% as dense as Earth's, right? There's nothing related to gravity. It's the difference in density in the atmosphere between the two. So according to the text, why would a helicopter for Earth be unable to fly on Mars? Reading through the options, because Mars and Earth's have different atmospheric conditions. That's a strong candidate. B, because the blades of helicopters built for Earth are too large to work for Mars. No. There's actually, the opposite is true. The blades for a helicopter on Mars are longer for that on Earth, so that's not B. Gravity, there's nothing about gravity. D, because helicopters built for Earth are too small to handle conditions on Mars. No, this is a better summary of why a helicopter on Earth would be unable to fly on Mars. 12. In West Africa, Yalis have traditionally been keepers of information about family histories and records of important events. They have often served as teachers and advisors too. New technologies may have changed some aspects of their role today, but Yalis continue to be valued for knowing and protecting their people's stories. Let's just go through the options. This isn't too long. Even though there have been some changes in the roles, Yalis continued. The last sentence, again, keying in on that, directly ties into this. This is a strong candidate. There's nothing to say, there's nothing in the passage referencing they like teaching best. There's nothing in the passage about them entertaining people. In technology, no, that's not the main focus of the text. So the best option there is A. In 1934, physicist Eugene Wigner posited that the existence of a crystal consisting entirely of electrons in a honeycomb-like structure, the so-called Wigner crystal, remained largely conjecture, however, till Feng Wang and his colleagues announced in 2021 that they had captured an image of one. The researchers trapped electrons between the two semiconductors and then cooled the apparatus, causing the electrons to settle in the crystalline structure by inserting an ultra-thin sheet of graphene above the crystal. The researchers obtained an impression, the first visual confirmation of the Wigner crystal. Again, focusing on that last sentence. Which choice best states the main idea of the text? Researchers have obtained the most definitive evidence to date of the existence. So this was previously a hypothesis, and then there's an experimental result that confirms that hypothesis, right? So that's a very strong candidate. Main idea of the text. This is plausible. Graphene, I don't think, was really the focus of the passage. It's difficult to acquire. No, that doesn't seem to be the main focus of the passage. So really kind of looking at A or B, I think really this passage is about a scientific discovery, about proving something exists that was hypothesized, and then they developed an experiment that demonstrated its existence. So that's really kind of the focus of the passage. All right, 14. So we have this table in front of us. Just take a quick glance at it, and then underneath the table it says that considering a large sample of companies, economic experts assessed the number of managers and leaders from different departments who reported directly to a chief executive officer. According to the researchers, the findings suggest that across the years analyzed, there was a growing interest among CEOs in connecting with more departments in their companies. So the rate of increase for department leaders is greater than that. The slope of the line, if you were to connect these bars, shows that there's a greater positive slope between the two. So which choice best describes the data from the graph that support the researcher's conclusion? Okay, what was the researcher's conclusion? Growing interest among the CEOs in connecting with more departments in their companies. And that is corroborated with the graph that was provided. So we're looking for a statement That corroborates that last sentence and is exemplified in the graph. The average number of managers and department leaders didn't fluctuate. No, there's nothing there. The average number of managers reporting, that's not the focus. We're not focused on the number of managers. We're really focused on the department leaders. Actually, that's a good strategy, so you can just immediately strike the first two options. The average number of department leaders was greater than the average number of managers in each of the 3 periods studied. The average number of department leaders reporting directly to the CEO rose over the 3 period study. Again, looking at that last, are we making a comparison, or we're just kind of stating that the rate of increase or the number of department leaders reporting has increased over the 3 measurements, and it's D. We're not really looking at the factoring in the managers. There's nothing there according to the prompt, which is in the last part of the section. 15. When digging for clams, their primary seafood, sea otters, damage the roots of eelgrass planting growing on the seafloor. Near Vancouver Island in Canada, the otter population is large and well established, yet the eelgrass meadows are healthier than those found elsewhere. To explain this, conservation, blah, 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 meadows where otters are absent were introduced only recently, finding that the Vancouver meadows have more diverse gene. Foster hypothesized that damage to eelgrass roots increase the plant's rate of sexual reproduction, thus in turn boosts genetic diversity, which benefits the meadow's health overall. So what does this mean, all of this? If there's more sea otters, there's more growth in the of the meadow's health, right? So that's we're looking for an option. So which finding, if true, would directly undermine that? So thinking about the passage says if there's more sea otters, the eelgrass would increase in size and prevalence. So we're looking for something that is the opposite of that. A, at some sites in the study, eelgrass meadows are found near the otter populations that are small and have only been recently been reintroduced. B, at several sites not included in the study, there are large, well-established sea otter populations, but no eelgrass meadows. C, at several sites not included in the study, eelgrass meadows health correlates negatively with the length and residence and the size of sea otter populations. Yes, that is the inverse relationship of what is described in the passage. Correlates negatively, right? Let me just double check. Yep, that's right. 16. Scholars have noted that F. Scott Fitzgerald's writings were likely influenced in part by his marriage to Zelda Fitzgerald, but many don't recognize Zelda as a writer in her own right. Indeed, Zelda authored several works herself, such as the novel Save Me, The Waltz, and numerous other short stories. Thus, those who primarily view Zelda as an inspiration for F. Scott Fitzgerald's writings blank. So what's going on here? Many don't recognize Zelda as a writer in her own right, but she authored several works, right? So they're saying those who primarily view Zelda as an inspiration are making an incomplete assessment, right? Because that's really kind of what's described in the first part of the passage, is that she was more than just inspiration. She was an author herself. So what option there most closely aligns with the assertion that she is more than just inspiration? Overlook many of the factors that motivated. No, that's not. Risk misinterpreting the full range of Zelda contributions to literature. Strong option. May draw inaccurate conclusions about how there's no comparison reference between the two works. D, tend to read the works of F. Scott and Zelda in an overly autobiographical light. No, there's nothing there. It's B. 17. Among social animals that care for their young, such as chickens, macaw, monkeys, and humans, newborns appear to show an innate attraction to faces and face-like stimuli. Elisabetta Versace and her colleagues used an image of 3 black dots arranged in the shape of eyes and a nose or mouth to test whether this trait also occurs in Tetsudo tortoises, which live alone and do not engage in parental care. So they found that tortoise hatchlings showed a significant preference for the image, suggesting that face-like stimuli are likely perceived as harmless by newborns of social species that practice parental care, but as threatening. There's nothing there about threatening. Researchers should not assume that an innate attraction to face-like stimuli is necessarily an adaptation related to social interaction or parental care. That's a strong option, because really, what is the passage saying? These species referenced in the beginning, they have parental care, but the tortoises who do not have parental care, they showed a preference for that. But unlike the other species that are referenced earlier in the passage, they didn't have that preferential care. So there's some deeper level of connection or preference that's being expressed that is not directly related to parental care. So really, that's kind of what's called out here, is that whatever it is, it's not necessarily an adaptation related to social interaction or parental care. So B. 18. Compiled in the late 1500s, largely through efforts of indigenous scribes, Cantares Mexicanos is the most important collection of poetry in classical Noetl, the principal language of the Aztec Empire. The poems portray Aztec society before the occupation of the empire by the army of Spain. And marginal notes in the book indicate that much of the collection's content predates the initial invasion. Nonetheless, some of the poems contain inarguable references to beliefs and customs common in Spain during this era. Thus, some scholars have concluded blank. So really, what is this passage saying? There is so it has beliefs and customs that were common in Spain before the Aztecs were invaded by the Spanish. So they had some level of interaction with Spain before this invasion took place. So we're looking for a sentence that extends that observation. So looking at the options, while its content largely predates the invasion, the Cantares Mexicanos also contains additions made after the invasion. That could be true, although those who compiled were fluent. There's nothing there referencing the knowledge of the Spanish language. C, before the invasion and by Spain, poets of the Aztec Empire borrowed from literary traditions from other societies. I thought that was plausible when I first saw this question. And then D, the references to beliefs and customs in Spain should be attributed to a coincidental resemblance between the societies of the Aztec Empire. This was a hard question. I thought A, C, and D were possible answers, and they're saying that A is the best answer because it most logically completes the text. The text explains that the compendium, the Cantares Mexicanos, contains poems about Aztec Empire before the Spanish invasion. Furthermore, it indicates that notes in the collection attest that some of these poems predate the invasion, while some customs depicted are likely Spanish in origin. The implication is that some poems were composed before the invasion, but the references to the Spanish customs could have come only after the invasion, and thus that the collection includes content that predates the invasion. I don't know, man. That just seems really circular to me. I don't understand that question. Read that one over later, I guess. 19. In a study of the cognitive abilities of white-faced capuchin monkeys, researchers neglected to control for the physical difficulty of the tasks they were used to evaluate for the monkeys. So they conducted a bad experiment. The cognitive abilities of monkeys given problems requiring given problems requiring little dexterity, such as sliding a panel to retrieve food, were judged by the same criteria as were those of monkeys giving physically demanding problems, such as unscrewing a bottle and inserting a straw. The results of the study, therefore, so the study is flawed. They were given 2 tasks that were judged to be of equivalent complexity and difficulty, but they weren't. So the monkeys who did who failed at the more complex task would subsequently be determined to be less intelligent than the monkeys that were able to complete the easier task. So we're looking for something in one of the answers that kind of exemplifies that. So A, could suggest that there are differences in cognitive ability among the monkeys, even though such differences may not actually exist. That really stands out to me. Because that's exactly what the passage is describing, is that because of this flawed experiment, you're going to see differences you're going to assume that there are differences in cognitive ability, but that's not actually supported because the methodology in the experiment itself is flawed. 20, to survive when water is scarce, embryos inside African turquoise killifish eggs blank a dormant state known as a diapause. In this state, embryonic development is paused for as long as 2 years, longer than the lifespan of an adult killifish. That's interesting. Which choice completes the text so that it conforms to the standard to the conventions of standard English? To enter, no. There's a switch. What are they? A context switch there. Having entered, no. Entering, no. It's enter. Formed in 1967 to foster political and economic stability within the Asia-Pacific region. The Association of Southeast Asian Nations was originally made up of 5 members: Thailand, the Philippines, Singapore, Malaysia, and Indonesia. By the end of the 1990s, the organization blank its initial membership. Which choice completes the text so that it conforms to the convention of standard English? So they're referring to this, the sentence is in some ways written in past tense. So that immediately eliminates C and D. And then has doubled or had doubled. Fits in better there. 22, the intense pressure found in the deep ocean can affect the structure of proteins in fish cells, distorting the protein's shape. The chemical trimethylamine N oxide, TMAO, counters this effect, ensuring that proteins retain their original blank is found in high concentrations in the cells of the deepest dwelling fish. So which choice is the best there? Boy, that immediately seems like a run-on sentence to me. Let's see. The chemical TMAO counters this effect, ensuring that proteins retain their original blank. Definitely not B. You're gonna need either a period or a comma. D is a run-on sentence. C is also a run-on sentence. You really need to break that apart into 2 sentences. So A is the best choice there. 23. Food and the sensation of taste are central to Monique Truong's novels. In The Book of Salt, for example, the exiled character of Bin connects to his native Saigon through the food he prepares, while in Bitter in the Mouth, the character of Linda blank a form of synesthesia whereby the words she hears evoke taste. Which choice completes the text so that it conforms to the conventions of standard English? So in the first one, it's interesting. Let's look at the tenses, right? Connects, prepares. it's kind of written in a present tense, so that would eliminate the first two choices, experience and had experience. And D is just wordy and weird, so the best option there is C, experiences, because it fits with the two words, kind of operand words prior to that. 24. Inventor John Friedman created a prototype of the first flexible straw by inserting a screw into a paper straw and using dental floss, binding the straw tightly around blank. When the floss and screw were removed, the resulting corrugations in the paper allowed the straw to bend easily over the edge of a glass. So there's two words here, screws and threads. Screws, you know that when a object has a possessive component that directly follows it, but the multiple of the word, so screws, you need an apostrophe after that S. So the best option here is B. Let me just double check that. No.
Because it's saying like, you can't use it, it's saying A screw, so basically it's like, it's using like it's possessive for the.
Wait, did I? They actually said C? Yeah, they said C. Screws, threads.
Oh wait, no, yeah, I see, because threads has to do it.
Yeah, definitely threads. You don't need an apostrophe off of that, right? So the question then becomes, it's the screws threads, and what do they say? So the convention being tested is the use of plural and possessive nouns. The singular possessive noun screws and the plural noun threads correctly indicate that there is only one screw and it has multiple threads. Yeah, that this would imply there's multiple screws with multiple threads. The apostrophe S refers to one screw and multiple threads. That's what they're testing there in that question. 25. In her analysis of Edith Wharton's The House of Mirth, scholar Candace Wade observes that the novel depicts the upper classes of New York society as consumed by the appetite of a soulless blank. An apt assessment, given that The House of Mirth is set during the Gilded Age, a period marked by rapid industrialization, economic greed, and widening wealth disparities. So which choice best fits there? Consumed by the appetite of a soulless materialism is really the word. So all the options contain materialism. We know we need to have quotations because it's citing a passage from the book. The question, though, is, the first two options have and an apt deception that doesn't fit. So it's we know when we cite a passage from a work to continue that sentence with additional analysis, we have to include a comma. That is standard conventional English, right? Yep. So we gotta make sure we have that comma in there because it continues. To humans, it does not appear that the golden orb weaver spider uses camouflage to capture its blank. The brightly colored arachnid seems to wait conspicuously in the center of its large circular web for insects to approach. Researcher Popeng of the University of Melbourne has explained that the spider's distinctive coloration may in fact be part of its appeal. So let's look at the options. First word, prey. To capture its prey. And then rather. So they're saying that option D is the best choice. And the rationale that they give is the convention being tested is the coordination of the main clauses within the subject. The semicolon is correctly used to join the first main clause, to humans, prey, and the second main clause, rather, approach. Further, the comma after the adverb rather is correctly used to separate the adverb from the main clause. Just practice it. These are a little bit tough, especially when they use the semicolons. If you're gonna like choose one to study, choose the one with the semicolons, because if you can identify the ones where you absolutely know you need to do the semicolons, you could probably figure out the ones where you don't. By elimination, you'll get the other ones. 27. In Death Valley National Park's racetrack playa, a flat, dry lake bed, are 162 rocks, some weighing less than a pound, but others almost 700 pounds, that move periodically from place to place, seemingly of their own volition. Racetrack-like trails in the blank, mysterious migration. So the options they give us are, so a playa is a singular thing, and then racetrack-like trails in the playa's sediment mark the rocks. So remember, let's go back to the screw and the thread one, right? So we have one playa and multiple rocks, not entirely different from the screw and the thread, but we do have to factor the one thing that's a little bit different on this. So we know the first one, by the way, when we do the screw and the thread is we have singular here. So that eliminates options A and D. So we're left with B and C. And we need to reference, we need to connect this mysterious migration to the rocks. So the choice that links that mysterious migration to the rocks is C. In crafting her fantasy fiction, Nigerian-born British author Helen has drawn inspiration from the classic 19th century fairy tales of Brothers Grimm. Her 2004 novel, Boy Snow Bird, for instance, is a complex retelling of the story of Snow White, while her 2019 novel, Blank, offers a delicious twist on the classic tale of Hansel and Gretel. So, you know what kind of makes this a little bit easier is that they're referencing the title of two books. So what did they do in the first listing? All they did, just to keep it moving, was include a period, or not a period, a comma. So let me just double check. Oh, never mind. The title includes the commas. That's not a convention of multiple titles. So really, you're only referencing a single work. So it's C, yeah. 29. While researching a topic, a student has taken the following notes. NASA uses rovers, large remote vehicles with wheels, to explore the surface of Mars. NASA's rovers can't explore regions inaccessible to wheeled vehicles. Rovers are also heavy, making them difficult to land on the planet's surface. Microprobes, robotic probes that weigh as little as 50 milligrams, could be deployed virtually anywhere on the surface of Mars. Microprobes have been proposed as an alternative to rovers. Really? Okay, so that's what you want to focus on. They're an alternative to rovers. They're light, they're smaller. Rovers are awkward. The student wants to explain the advantage of microprobes. Which choice most effectively uses the information from the notes to accomplish this goal? Despite being heavy, NASA's rovers can... that's not the focus of the passage. Microprobes, which weigh as little as 50 milligrams, could explore areas of Mars that are inaccessible to NASA's heavy wheeled rovers. Strong candidate. C, NASA currently uses its rovers on Mars, but microprobes have been proposed as an alternative. Maybe. D, although they are different sizes, microprobes and rovers can be used to explore the surface of Mars. They have different capabilities. That was like the whole point of the passage. So really, we're kind of evaluating those two options. And We really want to call out the differences between the two. That was kind of highlighted multiple times in the bullet points, so B is the best option, just because it also encapsulates what was described in the bullet points. That enables the microprobes to be more effective than rovers. 30. While researching a topic, a student has taken the following notes. The person was awarded the 2021 Nobel Prize in Literature. Gurna was born in Zanzibar, East Africa, and currently lives in the United Kingdom. Many readers have singled out Gurna's 1994 book Paradise for praise. Paradise is a historical novel about events that occurred in colonial East Africa. So he's an author. He's from East Africa. He lives in the United Kingdom. He wrote a book in 1994 called Paradise, and it talks about events that occurred in colonial East Africa, and he won a 2021 Nobel Prize for it. So if the student was talking to someone who had no prior knowledge of the author, which sentence would kind of best summarize the 4 bullet points? A is just kind of, I don't know, it's awkward. It's just kind of a readout. There's no summation or no tying it all together. B is almost kind of like the opposite of that. There's nothing referenced in the passage about singling out the book. There is a reference to singling it out, but I don't think that's really kind of the point of emphasis of the 4 bullet points. C, a much praised historical novel about colonial East Africa, was written by the author who was the winner of the 2021 Nobel Prize, strong candidate. Paradise is a historical novel about events that occurred in colonial East Africa. Doesn't talk about the author's accomplishment of winning the Nobel Prize, so C is really the best choice there. 31. While researching a topic, a student has taken the following notes. Ulaanbaatar is the capital of Mongolia. The city's population is 907,802. 31.9% of Mongolia's population lives there. Hanoi is the capital of Vietnam. Population is 7.7 million. 8.1% of people that live in Vietnam live in Hanoi. So what stands out? Much higher percentage, right? Populations are different, but much higher percentage in Mongolia for the percentage of people living in one city. Which choice most effectively uses information from the given sentences to emphasize the relative sizes of the 2 capitals? No, I'm looking for something that talks about the difference in the difference in the percentage of people. So A is doesn't really go into that. B, the populations of the 2, there's no comparison there, even though, yeah, that's a strong candidate. Comparing, no, that's just wrong. That's an incorrect summary. So C. While researching a topic, a student has taken the following notes. One of history's greatest libraries was the House of Wisdom in Baghdad. It was founded in the 8th century with the goal of preserving all the world's knowledge. Proto-Google. Scholars at the House of Wisdom collected ancient and contemporary texts from all over the place. Writings included Greek philosopher and Indian mathematician. House of Wisdom used Chinese papermaking. So you got this proto-Google that has a lot of influence from places all over the world. It just wasn't something that was unique to Iraq or that region's culture. It had influence of multiple cultures. Student wants to explain how the House of Wisdom preserved the world's knowledge. Okay, so that's the focus. How do they preserve the world's knowledge? When I read this, I thought that was a strong candidate because it really goes into the influence from multiple different cultures. B founded that there's really no point of emphasis from translators in the passage. C, writings from the Greek philosophers, that was just kind of a single bullet point. That really wasn't the point of emphasis. D, the House of Wisdom collected writings from different countries and created paper versions in Arabic to be studied and shared. That's a strong candidate. So looking at the two, did they have? So the key says D. I really thought A was a strong choice. So if they're saying D is the best answer, and they say that because the sentence explains how the House of Wisdom preserved the world's knowledge, noting that the library collected, translated, and printed writings from different countries. So really, I think it goes back to the prompt. How did they preserve the world's knowledge? It's almost in some ways like the additional international context is irrelevant. So if we had to identify parts of the bullet points where they preserve the world's knowledge, it's that, right? That doesn't even matter. They translated, right? So they translated, they created paper versions, and these two don't really have anything about that, but there's our created paper versions. I would have liked to have seen translated in that option as well, but that's what they gave us, so they said D. It's kind of a weird one. Last question. While researching a topic, student has taken the following notes. British musicians John Lennon and Paul McCartney shared writing credit for numerous Beatles songs. Many Lennon-McCartney songs were actually written by either Lennon or McCartney, not by both. So it's one or the other. The exact authorship of specific parts of many of the Beatles songs, such as the verse for In My Life, is disputed. Mark Glickman, Jason Brown, and Ryan's song use statistical methods to analyze the musical content of Beatles songs. They concluded that there is a 18.9% probability that McCartney wrote the verse for In My Life. So that means that John Lennon most likely wrote it, right? The student wants to make a generalization about the kind of study conducted by the researchers. Which choice most effectively uses relevant information from the notes to accomplish this goal? Based on statistical analysis by the researchers, that Lennon wrote the verse In My Life, that could be an option. There is only an 18.9% probability that McCartney wrote the verse In My Life. Maybe. C, it is likely that John Lennon, not Paul McCartney, wrote the verse for In My Life. Or D, researchers have used statistical methods to address questions of authorship within the field of music. That really kind of summarizes what's, because they want to make a generalization. So we get really specific options presented to us in A, B, and C. And those very specific options pertain to that passage. But really, the prompt here is asking for that generalization. And that's the answer that differs from the other three. It's a generalization about what they were doing. They were using a statistical method to identify authorship, which might be able to be used to identify other songwriters. Take a break. I think I'm going to go to the math section next, just to mix it up. That would be yeah.
why is it free? Well, I've done told you too, but I'm sorry. There was a lot. Soothing wardrobes, rice. Yeah. Who's basically about that? I don't know, just chocolates.
This projector is terrible. First problem, it's the aspect ratio. Like, computers today have a 16 by 9 aspect ratio. This is a 3 by 2. Back when like things were narrow, that aspect ratio. Yeah, it sucks. Do you go to Troy High or Athens? Troy High. I'm wondering if would you be open to asking to have us put on like free essay tutoring on the morning announcements?
Do that?
Yeah.
We probably will actually do that too.
You know anyone that's in an office? I can ask around though, for sure. I can ask someone and then find someone who's in the announcements and then ask them.
I forget, like, I think you can, as long as it's good information to know, like, what is the process for anyone asking to get anything on announcements? I think anyone can ask for anything to get on announcements.
That's the teacher that makes announcements.
Yeah, yeah. Because I have I have a Facebook group with 1,000 parents in it, and that's how I get the info out for this. But I figured, you know, there's all the students are actually in school, so having it on announcements might be a good way to get more people to know about it.
Yeah, I think that would work.
I don't think I ever would have found this.
What's that?
I said I don't think I ever would have like found out this class.
Yeah.
Oh.
Our parents. I would not know.
Yeah, because the Facebook group is just parents.
Yeah.
It's a parent Facebook group. All right, let's knock this out.
Probably Stephanie Zender, I don't know her name at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's like my aunt pretty much. Like we're really good family friends, and she told me about it.
Oh, cool. Yeah, there's a bunch of parents that are in like a WhatsApp group that we all work together on school district issues. And Stephanie's I'm running for school board with Stephanie. She's going to be running this fall, and we're running as a slate of 3. Stephanie,
And then,
Audra.
yeah, that's actually her son's my friend too.
Oh, really? Cool. All right. 1, the line graph shows the percent of cars for sale at a used car lot on a given day by model year. For what model year is the percent of cars for sale the smallest? That would be that one, right? And that's 2014. I love how easy they are at the beginning. Filled with such hope. Yeah, I'm gonna do well this time. Hold on, let me just. Anyway.
They get harder.
Yes, they do. This one I thought was this week. I thought math was harder. There's just some weird questions. 2, for a particular machine that produces beads, 29 out of every 100 beads it produces have a defect. So it's just 29 over 100. Duh, right? Pretty easy. In the figure, line M is parallel to line M, and line T intersects both lines. So 33 degrees, if we were to rotate it, so 180 minus 33 equals 147, right? Pretty easy. What is the y-intercept? What is means when the function crosses? Well, it kind of crosses the axis. What are the coordinates of that point? 0, 8. Right. 6. Each side of a square has a length of 45. Right. 45 by 45. What is the perimeter? So 45 plus 45 plus 45.
You skipped 5, by the way.
What's that?
You skipped
Oh,
5.
sorry. Total cost, f of x in dollars, to lease a car for 36 months for a particular car dealership is given by the equation f of x equals 36 plus 1,000, where x is the monthly payment in dollars. What is the total cost to lease a vehicle, to lease a car when the monthly payment is 400? So they give us x, actually, so f of 400 equals 36 times 400 plus 1,000, right? Get your calculator out. $14.50? Or wait,
Yeah, I got 14.
wait, so we must have done something wrong, 'cause, yeah, wait, did I write the equation down? Let me 36 months. Wait, okay, wait. To lease a, where X is the monthly payment in dollars. Oh, so this is actually, the equation that they give us. So they're asking for 3f of x. So, yeah, so, it's weird. The equation that they give us is the, hold on, let me reread this. Why I did all these questions, why don't I remember this one? I probably skipped it. No, so they, 36, X is the monthly payment. What is the total cost, please? Yeah. What I'm struggling with is you can plug, like, they give you the monthly cost.
15.
Yeah, so you can plug it in. It is 3f of x, like. Look, man, there ain't no way you're buying a car for under 30,000 these days. So it's gotta be 37. So let me just walk through the. So they're saying,
36,000.
let me double check the key. Is it D? Oh, it's C?
Yeah.
Is it just 36 times 400 plus 1,000?
Like,
That's what I did, and somehow I got 1,000 less, and then you put it back in the calculator, and it was C.
is that right? Did I type it in my calculator wrong?
I typed in my calculator wrong.
You had to do it like 7.
Oh, I put 100 instead of 1,000, and that's why. I put in 100 instead of 1,000.
It's funny, you and I did both literally the same thing. Yeah, it is. I don't know why I just flubbed that one. All right, perimeter. This is just 45 times 4 is 180. Okay, so this is we're going to manipulate this. We're going to multiply both sides by x plus 6 to get a common denominator. Also, it references a positive solution, so you know you're going to get like an equation with two components. So x plus 6, right? Cancel. 55 equals x squared plus 6x. If I bring over the 55, it gets negative, right? So 2 parts, x. We have a positive integer here, 2 factors, so plus 11 minus 5, right? Because 11 minus 5 equals 6. That fits in with that right there. So we want the positive solution, and the positive solution here of the two components of the equation is 5. Everybody follow?
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm thinking from
Yep.
the factors.
Exactly. Object travels at a constant speed of 12 centimeters per second. At this speed, what is the time in seconds? This is just the same as 12s equals 108, where s equals the number of seconds, s 108 divided by 12, s equals 9. This one you just jam out. You just calculate the mean for both. And the mean for the second one is higher. So data set, we want, that's, nope, yes. You can do the math for it, that's easy. Rocket contains 460,000 kilograms, right? And then after 21 seconds, minus x equals 362, 105. So subtract the two to find how much it burns. So 467,000 minus 362, 105. X equals 104,895 over, and they said it was a constant rate. So divided by 21, right? 4995. If 4x plus 2 equals 12, what is the value of system of equations? Pretty damn easy. 4x 12, 4x equals 10, x equals 2.5, 16, 2.5 plus 8, 48. T, weird equation. Which number represents the height in meters from the object? So there's a constant here, 9, right? What is t equals 0? It's the height before the ball was kicked. Because when t equals 0, you can cross that out, so h of 0 equals 9. So the height is the height of the ball before it was kicked is 9, because when you plug in t equals 0, you get 9. H equals 0. The given equation, this and the next one threw me for a loop. So they say you can rewrite the equation with this expression. Why you would use this expression? You guys know this? I know you're good at math. Walk me through this one. 13. So if you, yeah, I'm like, what is decimals? What do you mean put it in decimals?
Decimals.
Like a graphic calculator.
Oh, yeah, So, oh, you're just saying you can look at the graph, you can find them, yeah.
Because we can use decimals in the
Oh, really? So the function at a minimum means what? The local max and the
So
is
just
it,
find the vertex and the y values.
okay. So the standard form of that expression graphically is what? So if f of x was equal to x squared, you have, and that's a y coordinate, it would be something like that. So I don't. So you're saying just plug it in your graphing calculator and then like look. The coordinates of the vertex, or okay, and it's the y value of the coordinate of the vertex, right? Because that would be the minimum. Maybe just look at that one when you're studying. 14, small business owner budgets $2,200 to purchase candles. The owner must purchase a minimum of 200 candles to maintain the discounted pricing. If the owner pays $4.90 per candle to purchase small candles and $11.60 per candle to purchase large candles, what is the maximum number of large candles the owner can purchase to stay within the budget and maintain the discount pricing? So there's a lot of things going on here. So you got $4.90 for small candle, call that S, and $11.60 per large candle, call that L, and you need a minimum of 2,200, right? As well as a minimum of 200 candles. So there's two expressions. Those are two unique expressions. Let me write that so it's not garbage. So I got 4.9S plus 11.6L less than or equal to 2,200. And then the other equation is S plus L is greater than or equal to 200. So it actually, I can use this, right, to solve for either S or L, and then I can plug that expression or that value back into the first expression to then solve for that. I won't go through doing that. You can kind of do that yourself. The only thing that you kind of need to remember is that, let's just do it. So, if I solve for S, I get 200 minus L because I brought L to the other side, right? So then if I plug that into my first expression, and then
multiply both sides by negative 11, the 2,200 and negative 2,200 cancel out, and then you add the two expressions to equal 0.
Yeah, you could do it that way too. I mean, it's there's a couple, I think, ways you can do it. Anyways, if you simplify all that out, you get, what does it say? 182. In the linear function f of 0 equals 8. So remember, that is a coordinate. And so is the second part, right? And then you can get y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. So just to make our lives easier, we'll make 12 be y2. So 12 minus 8, 1 minus 0, 4 over 1. So my slope is 4. They give me the b value, right? Because when x is 0, y is 8. So I know that it's b is 8 in the expression, and then my slope is 4. So the answer is D, right? The function f of w equals 6w squared gives the area of a rectangle in square feet if its width is w feet and its length is 6 times its width. All right, so it's a rectangle, right? Let's draw that rectangle. W, 6w. If I multiply the two together, length times width, that gives me the area, which is the expression that they provided, right? So what does this mean, right? If the width, f of 14 equals 176, that's the area, right? That's the width, right? So, I mean, this is pretty straightforward, right? The width is 14 because that's the the nomenclature to write the expression. Then 6 times 14 squared equals 1176. You just read these. This is crazy. I mean, the area obviously isn't 14 squared, so these are not good. All right. Circle shown as a center O, circumference 144 pi, diameters p sub r and q sub s. The length of the arc PS is twice the length of the arc PQ. What is the length of the arc QR? So all of this, right, clockwise, is 144, right? Circumference. 144 pi. Now we have an expression. They're saying, let's make these into variables, right? So we can call this, and they are directly related to each other, and they're actually, so we can use the same variable. So this is 2x, this is x, this is 2x, and this is x, right? So let's just write that out. 2x plus 2x plus x plus x equals 144 pi. So you get what? 4x, well, it's actually 6x total, right? Equals 144 pi. So x equals, I don't know, 24. Right? So they're asking for the length of arc QR. So if we know x is 24 pi, and this arc is 2x, 2 times 24 pi equals 48 pi. That didn't stand out to me to begin with, but as I worked through it, it became, you got to just make your life easy. Just, again, they give you the circumference, right? And then they give you the length of PS is twice the length of PQ, right? And that, so the expressions themselves are all interrelated. They can all be expressed by one variable. You don't need two variables to express the entire system. So you just kind of collectively add those all together to solve for x, and we know that the entire circumference, again, is 144 pi. So you get 6x equals 144 pi, x equals 24 pi. So we know that 2 times 24 is 48, and so to keep me honest, right, I said this whole thing is 144. This was 2x, x, 2x, x, right? So we get 48, 24, 48, 24. You add those all those up, you get 144.
What do you think about working backwards? Like using, like 48 times 2 was 96, and then half of that, because it says it's half.
All right, let me write this out. I'll have to walk through it one sec. All right, say that one more time.
So like, what do you think about just using the answers and kind of solving it that way?
Yeah, I mean, if you can grind and get it that way, that's another tool in your toolbox you can use.
No. Also, for number 13, I plugged it into my graphic calculator, and so the x value of the vertex is the answer, not the y value.
Yes. Yeah. Does it give you on your calculator? It was like some weird fraction, like 25 over something.
Yeah, I think it's 25.
What does it look like? Can you?
No, on the digital it's yeah, they give
Did they give you? Yeah. Can you use your own calculator, or do you have to use the calculator they give you?
Like when you take the test on Google, they give you a Desmos calculator, which can do anything.
Really?
The Desmos calculator, you just plug in your function, and then it gives you the answer, like the lowest on the graph. That's the minimum value.
Is it this is just, when you say Desmos calculator, it's like a floating box that you can like,
Yeah.
I want to see it, because I've never seen it before.
Not many equations, like prints out the graph.
So it's like the exact same calculator, but it
Oh,
So I plug the function in, and then the lowest point is like the answer.
oh.
So you can solve anything.
Yeah,
If
yeah,
you give
yeah.
like a system of equation, it gives you the answer.
So, do they let you take the are you taking the test on a full desktop computer or an
Yeah.
iPad?
Computer.
It's a
And
desktop
it works
computer.
on both.
Okay. So you'll have like another window with a calculator open and
Yeah.
then the test window and a separate window and then you can
So
that's interesting.
yeah, that does everything for you.
Who's Bishop? Bishop, you know him? Bishop, right?
Yeah, we can just solve anything crisis like
Okay, all right. Let's keep moving. A company that provides whale watching tours takes groups of 21 people at a time. The company's revenue is $80 per adult, so 80P, or excuse me, 80A. I don't know why I said P. 80A plus 60C. If the company's revenue for one group consisting of adults and children was $1,440, so equals 1440, right? How many in the group are children, and what's our constraint, right? So we have two expressions, right? A plus C equals 21, right? What's a good way to solve this? Well, let's just go for it. So A equals 21 minus C, right? So 80, 21 minus C plus 60C equals 1440. It's a big number. $1,680 minus 80C plus 60C. What does that get down to? I got negative 20C equals a negative value, 1440 minus 1680 minus 240. C equals 12. So if C equals 12, A has to equal 9 because they take groups of 21. So how many people were children? 12. Function h is defined by h of x, 4x plus 8. The graph of y equals h of x in the xy plane. It has a x-intercept at a of 0 and a y-intercept at 0 of b, where a and b are constants. What is the value of a plus b? All right. What did I do for this one? So if I write the expression or rewrite the expression of y equals 4x plus 28, what does that allow me to do? And I say that the true, yeah, yeah.
And the x-intercept, you just do subtract 28, or like you just put it at 0 and then subtract 28, you get negative 28.
Yeah, that is, I mean,
Or you get negative 7.
yeah, I like that. That's good. So if I do x of y is 28, and if I do y of 0, 7, right? Or negative 7. Yeah, negative 7. Oh, and then they're just asking a plus b. So really, all I'm looking at is negative 7 and 28. So negative 7 plus 28 is 21. A. one of the factors of 2x cubed plus 42x squared plus 208x is x plus b, where b is a positive constant. What is the smallest possible value of b? All right, what can we we can factor stuff out of this, right? 2x. Yeah. Double check. Yeah, 2x, x squared.
You don't need to do that. You can just divide the whole, like, yeah, you can just divide the whole thing, like 2x squared, 42x, 208, you can just divide the whole thing by 2, and get x, 2 times x squared plus 21x plus 104, and then x squared plus 21x plus 104, you can factor it into x plus 13 and x plus 8. Think,
What are the factors of 104? 13 and 8?
yeah.
What is the smallest possible value of b? So it's what, negative 8? 8. Why is it positive? But
You said, because if we make it at 8 with 0, why? You said the answer is negative 8?
I thought it was negative 8, but they're saying it's positive 8.
Oh, then yeah. Wait. Wait, what? You said.
Yeah, I mean, they say the expression is x plus 8 and x plus 13, so far we're good. And then it follows that the factors of the given expression are 2x, x plus 8, and x plus 13. Of these factors, only x plus 8 and x plus 13 are the form x plus b, where b is a positive constant. I guess by them saying it's a positive constant. Yeah. Even though the expression is,
It was just a possible value of b.
yeah,
I guess that makes sense.
yeah. So it's 8. In the given system of equations, a is a positive constant. The system has exactly one distinct real solution. This one sucked. What would you do for a graph? Like, I don't even think you could do the graphing calculator for this one. Like, because, I mean, you can just plug, right? So you can put 1.5 equals x squared plus 8x plus a, and then they just kind of reference like a as this positive constant. That's negative. So coming over makes it positive plus 1.5 plus a. So now what? And then they reference that it has one exactly distinct real solution. And then they reference a quadratic equation. 0 equals px squared plus qx plus r, where r equals 1.5 plus a. And then they say that if and only if the discriminant q squared minus 4pr is equal to 0. How they got that, I have no idea. So in this equation, though, if we had to, p equals 1 because there's no coefficient in front of x, q equals 8. This goes back to the fundamental, like the theorem of the quadratic equation, I think. And then what's r? R is 1.5 plus 8. So they're saying the quadratic, or
What's the answer?
29 over 2, 14.5. So they're saying once you have all that, therefore the discriminant of the equation at 0 equals You can just, I don't know, review that one later. That one's just kind of crazy. F of x equals x plus 6, x plus 5, x minus 4. So what do we know immediately? Let's just plug in x equals 0. What does that do? Or excuse me, x equals 4, right? Because that's one of the, in our, so if this is 0, and we're shifting it down 3, so this whole expression, even if it equals 0, we then have to manipulate it one more time. We're just, the y is 3 minus whatever the result of plugging in the x value for this expression is. So if all this is 0, y equals negative 3. So if I plugged in 4 here to get 0, right, I get that. So that matches so far. So that eliminates everything. Yeah, I guess the trick there is to just take one of the values and then you can just eliminate other options as long as the expression that you plugged in the first number with matches one of the options. For the function q, the value q sub q of x decreases by 45% for every increase in the value of x by 1. For every increase in the value of x by 1. If q of 0 equals 14, which equation defines q? So if it, how would I write that expression? Oh, that's what it's asking for. How do you write that expression? So there's a 45%. So if I plug in 0 to this, it's just going to, all these expressions, this is going to give me 1, every single one of these, right? So, oh, yeah. Wait, what about these last two? What about this? I'd have to 0.55 to the first powers, or 0, or, is that still 1? Yeah. So this and this gives me, what diffusion Voigt's q? So I guess really the next one that you can test after, you can eliminate the first two very easily, and then you can plug in 1 and then compare. So 0 gives you 14 for the first one, and then 1 for the second one, so 0.55 to the first power, 0.55 times 14. So this gives you 7.7, and this gives you 1.145 times 14. This gives you 20.3. So we should see by going from 0 to 1 a 45% increase. Oh, or you can just multiply 14 times 1.45, right? 20.3. And that matches D. Yeah, right? Is that 23? Oh, wait. No, I messed up. They say C. 40, oh wait. Oh, decreases. I thought it was, my bad. Decreases. So if it decreases by 45%, you're actually taking 14. If I decrease by, that's what, 0.45? Yeah, 6.3. Whoops. And then, did I do the math for that wrong? Yeah.
You're basically like multiplying by the 0.55% each time.
Did I do the math?
1 minus 0.45%, which is simplify that, and, yeah.
Okay. Wait, I want to get. So this is 17.7.
Let's check
Yeah.
my answers.
Oh, yeah. If it's a 45% decrease, it's 1 minus 0.45. It's 55.
Can I drink some water too?
Yeah, yeah, they're for you guys. So it's actually for. And that gives you 17.7. Yeah, makes sense. The graph of y equals f of x plus 14 is shown. Okay, so this means that it's shifted up 14, so y equals f of x. The x-intercept then would be 2 minus 14, so that would put me at, what, negative 12? Yeah, negative 12. So I know my b value is negative 12, which immediately gives me that one, right? This one's weird. So I have my triangle.
Oh, I skipped these.
52 is my hypotenuse. And really, I mean, I could just say like, this is 48 and that's 20. So it's not drawn to scale. And then they say, I've got another triangle, right? Where they say, well, the longest one here is R, T, S, and then they say V in T corresponds to, wait, S corresponds to V, so V, and T corresponds to W. So this is U, sorry, VW. And they say tan W, they want tan of W. Tan is what, just opposite of, opposite over adjacent? Okay. 20.
Oh, wait, how did you get A for? Alright, never mind. You can finish this.
For 24?
Yeah.
They give us a line, and they say the graph of this is plus 14.
Oh.
So if I know my y-intercept is 2, and it's plus 14, my b value for the expression is 2. It's got to be negative 12 plus 14 would give me 2. And then the b value that matches that would be negative 12.
I think actually, one more thing though, like, I don't think you need to like draw triangles because what you could do is so since the proportions of like the angles to the sides, like usually so the biggest side corresponds to like the biggest angle. Since in a right triangle, one of the angles is 90 and the other is at 90. Both those angles are less than 90. So what you can base off that is that the longest side is the hypotenuse.
And what is
You can just like kind of visualize it in your mind.
I can't. I'd have to draw triangles, but if you want to visualize in your head for that one, more power to you. But really, I mean, they say that the two triangles are similar, so you can still use the numbers that they give us for the first triangle, right? So tan of W, you said tan is what? Opposite over adjacent? So opposite would be 20 and adjacent is 40 over 8, which reduces to what? 4 is the common, 5 over 12, is that right? Is it B? Yeah. It's B. Gallon of paint will cover 220 square feet of a surface. Room has a total wall area of W square feet. Okay, so we're talking about wall. This whole thing is W. So what would you write the expression for the length and width if the total area is W? Is it so let's just write this out. 220 equals W. Say that again? Let me think about this. So it takes me 220, a gallon will cover 220. And it's the whole thing, so it's squared. If I need to do it twice, so if I multiply this expression, if I get 2W equals 440, and this is P, right? This whole thing is P. I get 2W over 440, so I get W over 220. What does it say? They say it's over 110. Why is it over 110? So they say, yeah, I get 2W over, but I gotta paint it twice. 2W over, no, they say, I was right to a point. So they say, you get, if I'm painting it twice, I have 2W by 220. Oh, go ahead. You can keep it open. I don't think it's going to be that loud. Oh, you can maybe just keep the door open then. Who? Is there someone? I don't know. So if I still don't understand why it's 110 and not 220, because if I need to paint it twice. Okay. Anyways, something to study at home. Last one, number A is 110% greater than the number B. The number B is 90% less than 47. So let's write that out. 110% greater is actually what? 2.1. So 2.1A equals B. And B, 47 equals 90% less than 47 is actually what? 0.1 B, or excuse me, yeah.
Just write it in my head, I don't know, I'm not writing anything down, so.
So it's what, 47 times 4.7? So if B equals 4.7, 2.1A equals 4.7, A equals 4.7 over 2.1? Wait, did I? Oh, did I write the expression incorrect?
Yeah, it's A is 100% greater than the number B, so B it's bigger than B. So basically,
Yeah.
2.1 times B is equal to A.
Right, yeah. So I did, and then it's actually 4.7 times 2.1. $9.87. Yep, that's right. I'm gonna take a break.
We want to math it back to later.
Yeah, we're gonna go back to lit. I may not do the second math section today. I'm just,
Yeah, it hurts your brain pretty bad.
my brain is hurting. What a stretch. Oh, if you guys get a chance, please, I think I have your emails, I don't know, sign in.
That's the worst A. What the hell does this do? Hawaiian shortbread? What? I did the apple like. Bro, after me paying for a tutor for hours and then me coming here immediately after, I can't, bro. I need to do something chill. Don't try the wine. No way. I was at Brawl Stars for 9 and I keep running.
It's gonna have the hallway runs the ball.
All Stars is amazing.
I don't get the hype. Like, I just started the game. Maybe that's why. But
I knocked off now. There's only one out now.
I'm in my prime right now.
There's only one. Just sitting on the couch, just like chilling, doing nothing.
That's kind of wild.
There's my mom sitting right next to me. Yeah, bro.
This was like either yesterday or it was Friday.
What the-
It was Friday. Yesterday.
Is that after school, bro?
Yes, bro. You know like that turn that like isn't like you're not supposed to go to, like the cop like shows up to it.
Oh, yeah.
He wasn't
Go up
there.
there.
I was like, man. But it has this weird curve and I hit it. And I was like, damn, that's embarrassing. But then the car started like right. I was like, oh, that's raps.
Wait, so did you at least get out of there? Or did you get popped for it?
Well, I didn't realize till I was at Red Rock.
Also,
Like,
who was it called? So you were at work already?
no, I don't even work there. I was going home. Like, that was on the
Great
way
at
home.
work, so
Yeah. They didn't notice I was bro,
They
I had to
like-
like change, it was raining and shit, it was miserable.
Oh, yeah, I forgot it was, I've never changed one.
It's not that bad.
I bought it another window. My shit's still broke.
New tire, $220, bro.
Your
Not
money?
even for the rims now.
Oh, shit. Lucky y'all.
I don't even gotta pay for gas.
Bro, I crashed into an Audi, I dropped 3,500 on the Audi. I dropped 2,700 on parts for my car, and then I bought another car, 3,800.
How do you afford all that?
I have like a lot of money. Like, I've been working since I was 12.
Isn't that like illegal?
Yeah. But like, I've been doing all kinds of shit.
Oh my god. Oh wait.
It's a
No.
butterball.
Yeah, that was just the initial taste, hold on.
It's like butterball run bad. Oh. Look at that crunchy peanut butter. I get all those vans. Yeah, that was like mowing lawns. I had 22 accounts when I was 12. And I charged 35 per car. And then I was also working at that age at a Mexican restaurant as a dishwasher. And then when I was 14, I was busing and still doing all the stuff. And at 15, I was serving. And I'm still serving. I just made 200 on Thursday night. I worked from 4:30 to 10:30. I made $201.
I'm happy with my 100.
100 a week is crazy.
I only work 8 hours.
Oh, that's not bad.
Plus GLP is the most chill, like, work environment, which sounds like old. Chill.
Is Tom still there?
Yeah. But he said he's gonna quit sometime.
He keeps telling me that and he hasn't done it yet.
I don't know when he actually wants to.
He needs to lock in for the SAT. I wonder who his score was.
This time, Tom is like smart, but I'm just Tom.
He's just there. He's like me, I guess. I'm not like super smart. I'm in 2 APs, but that doesn't mean much.
Tom, you just in all that. That's just.
You take AP lectures? Bro, I took freaking AP Euro. It was the weirdest class ever. AP European history.
Why do you even have that?
My old school had it. I don't know. It was weird.
Who teaches that?
I used to live up north, so you wouldn't know him.
Oh, I thought you took it at Trey. Never mind.
His name is T. We call him T. Raz, but Mr. Raz now, so you would not know him. T. Raz. Teacher Raz now. Tough class though. I had like summer homework. Like
How was that
before the
tough?
class started. No, like tough, like hard.
Oh.
Yeah. It was tough too. Like I don't know.
I'm so happy.
Like chemistry. One of the worst.
Which one? 1, 2, or AP?
Maybe. Probably one of the worst.
It's,
I think physics C is the hardest, I think, though.
What about like a 3?
I was never that great at physics.
It did last.
Or like any foreign language. I'm an AP Spanish.
Yeah, I don't.
It's so hard. I have like an 85 in my class. I'm struggling. But at Troy with APs, it's concert and A. Where's my reading when I lost it?
Yeah, I gotta find. Page 16 here.
Page 16, mine's.
Wow.
That's crazy that this is only 5.
curious, like, because I think if we get it on announcements,
Yeah, email.
we'll get some people.
Email him, because he knows the teachers.
Oh,
I don't know the teachers.
I'll email both of you. You can figure it out between the two of you.
We'll talk about it. Ouch.
All right.
I'll give you I have like multiple emails. I have like my personal, I gave them for like school work and stuff. Now I for schools. Oh. I know. I know something that messy right now.
All right, let's get this done. The Mulebone, a 1930 play written by Zora Neale Hurston and Langston Hughes, is perhaps best known of the is perhaps the best known of the few examples of blank in literature. Most writers prefer working alone. Stands out. Whoop. And given that working together cost Hurston and Hughes their friendship, it's not hard to see why. Which choice completes the text with the most logical, precise word or phrase? Best known few examples of blank in literature. So later on they talk about most writers prefer working alone, and it's not hard to see why. So this is one of the few examples where that a writer isn't working alone, they're working with someone. So what is a word that would denote two people working together? Not characterization, not interpretation. Yep, C, collaboration. 2, the process of mechanically recycling plastics is often considered blank because of the environmental impact and loss of material quality that often occurs. But chemist Takunda, I'm not even going to try that, has helped develop a cleaner process of chemical recycling that converts superabsorbent polymers from diapers into a desirable reusable adhesive. So they're basically saying recycling has this issue. It's you lose quality, right? But this chemist developed a process that does something. It makes the recycling more efficient. So in the first part of the phrase or passage, they say it's inefficient. So what is a word that best fits there that would characterize something, characterize a process that is not as efficient as it could be? Resilient? No. Inadequate? Probably. Dynamic? No. Satisfactory? No. It's inadequate. 3, interruptions in the supply chain for microchips used in personal electronics have challenged an economist's assertion that retailers can expect robust growth in sales of those devices in the coming months. The delays are unlikely to blank her projection entirely, but will almost certainly extend its time frame. So the projection is not invalidated, right? It's not disputed. Well, it could be disputed. That's actually a plausible candidate. Withdraw her projection entirely. That doesn't even fit with the word projection, I don't think. Underscore projection entirely, or invalidate. Invalidate is really the best choice there because it's not, her model still works, but it is, the reality ultimately differs her model by a little bit. 4, for her 2021 art installation anthem, Wu Tsang joined forces with singer and composer Beverly Glenn Copeland to produce a piece that critics found truly blank. They praised Tsang for creatively transforming a museum rotunda into a dynamic exhibit by projecting filmed images of Glenn Copeland onto a massive 84-foot curtain and filling the space with the sounds of his and other voices singing. So the first part of that passage talks about, it's a lead-in, and then they say they praise Tsang for creatively transforming a museum, and then they give this description of like this artistic installation. So what fits with kind of like this really descriptive and unique artistic installation. It's definitely not restrained. Could be inventive. That's an option. Inexplicable, I don't think there's anything inexplicable described in that passage. In mystifying. Mystifying, I think, would imply that people didn't quite understand it. Really, I think the best choice there is B, inventive, because it's something really unique. Inexplicable? That's.
I read it.
Oh, okay. No worries. Yeah. All right. 5. Some scientists have suggested that mammals in the Mesozoic era were not a very blank group, but paleontologist Z. Liu's research suggests that early mammals living in the shadow of dinosaurs weren't all ground-dwelling insectivores. Okay. Fossils of various plant-eating mammals have been found in China, including species like whatever, which Liu says could glide like a flying squirrel. So they're not all ground-dwelling insectivores. You got certain instances where this dinosaur can glide across the air like a squirrel. So predatory, no. Obscure, no. Diverse, potentially, or localized. Diverse is really because you have two dichotomies which are kind of opposite of each other. They're a diverse group. In it, there was an assumption that they weren't diverse, but then they gave an example directly following that shows they were not all ground-dwelling insectivores, that you had species of dinosaurs that could glide like a flying squirrel. So there's a diversity of different types of dinosaurs. 6, the following text is adapted from Gwendolyn Bennett's 1926 poem, Street lamps in early spring. Night wears a garment, all velvet soft, all velvet soft, all violet blue, and over her face she draws a veil, as shimmering fine a flouting dew. And here and there, in the black of her hair, the subtle hands of night move slowly with their gem-starred light. Which choice best describes the overall structure of the text? So, doesn't she kind of like subtle hands of night? There's like a personification going on here, right? A, it represents alternating descriptions of night in a rural area in a city. There's nothing there. B, sketches the image of nightfall and then an image of sunrise. I don't see any reference to sunrise. C, it makes an extended comparison of night to a human being. Yeah, that definitely is what's going on here. 7, according to historian Vicky L. Ruiz, Mexican-American women made crucial contributions to the labor movement during World War II. At the time, food processing companies entered into contracts to supply the United States Armed Forces with canned goods. Increased production quotas conferred greater bargaining power on the company's employees, many of whom were Mexican-American women. Employees insisted on more favorable benefits, and employers who were anxious to fulfill the contracts complied. Thus, labor activism became a platform for Mexican-American women to assert their agency. Which choice best describes the function of the underlying portion of the text as a whole? So, they're talking about a specific action as it relates to the labor relationship between workers and a company, and they specifically kind of identify that Mexican-American women employees were kind of at the forefront of this. So what is, of the 4 choices, best kind of encapsulates that? A, it elaborates on a claim about labor relations in a particular industry made earlier in the text. I don't think that's really the focus of the passage. B, it offers an example of a trend in the World War II era economy discussed earlier in the text. Maybe? C, it notes a possible exception to the story. No, I don't really see exceptions being described. D, it provides further details about the identities of the worker discussed earlier in the text. That I think really goes into detail on what they were trying to, did I get that right? My bad, guys. What's wrong? So they're saying it's A? Yeah, I didn't. A is the best answer because it describes how the underlying portion text says the increased production quotas of food processing companies during World War II enabled employees to make better bargains in exchange for their labor. I don't know. That's a weird one. We'll review that one later. 8. The following text is adapted from Zora Neale Hurston's 1921 short story, John Redding Goes to Sea. John is a child who lives in a town in the woods. Perhaps 10 years old, John was puzzling to the folk there in the Florida woods, for he was an imaginative child and fond of daydreams. The St. John River flowed a scarce 300 feet from his back door. On its banks, at this point, grow numerous palms, luxuriant magnolias, and bay trees. On the bosom of the stream float millions of delicately colored hyacinths. John loved to wander down to the water's edge and casting in dried twigs, watch these twigs sail away downstream to Jacksonville, the sea, the wide world, and he wanted to follow them. So really that last part stands out to me. Like, he's a small kid and he sees the flow of kind of these twigs to bigger and bigger bodies of water. So there's kind of like, again, this personification there. So there's something bigger going on here. So of the 4 options, A, it provides an extended description of a location that John likes to visit. Probably not. B, it reveals that some residents of Johnstown are confused by his behavior. I didn't read anything to that effect. All right, one sec. No, that's fine. Don't worry. Whoops. D, it suggests that John longs to experience a larger life outside of the Florida woods, because that portion of the passage really kind of develops imagery that, like, he is the twig. He wants to go into the wider world. 9. The following text is adapted from Oscar Wilde's 1891 novel, The Picture of Dorian Gray. Dorian Gray is taking his first look at a portrait that Hallward has painted of him. Dorian passed listlessly in front of his picture and turned towards it. When he saw it, he drew back, and his cheeks flushed for a moment with pleasure. A look of joy came into his eyes, as if he had recognized himself for the first time. He stood there motionless and in wonder, dimly conscious. Can you just open it? He stood there motionless and in wonder, dimly conscious that Hallward was speaking to him, but not catching the meaning of his words. The sense of his own beauty came on him like a revelation. He had never felt it before. So, of this entire passage, he's kind of like living in his own head, right? Like he definitely doesn't, he couldn't even hear the words that Hallward was speaking to him. B, he is delighted by what he sees in the portrait. I really think that's probably the most likely answer. C, he prefers portraits to other types of paintings. There's nothing in the passage that suggests that. D, he is uncertain of Hallward's talent as an artist. There, again, nothing in the passage just suggests that, so it's B. Voters' political orientation, level of political information, and probability of voting. So they give us a table, and then these researchers are investigating a variety of factors that influence voter turnout in the United States using survey data that revealed whether respondents voted in national elections and how knowledgeable respondents are about politics. The researchers claim that the likelihood of voting is driven in part by the potential voters' confidence in their assessments of candidates. Essentially, the more informed voters are about politics, the more likely they are at evaluating whether the candidates share their views, and thus the more likely they are to vote. Okay, so just a couple trends, right? Because this and this, right? And this and this. So let's look at the options. Which choice best describes data in the graph that support Charles and Stefan's claim? So what is their claim? Essentially, the more informed voters are about politics, the more confident they are evaluating whether candidates share their views, and they're more likely to vote. So this is liberal, Democrat, or conservative, L and C. So you kind of get the same thing at both ends of the spectrum, and that people in the middle are kind of the least likely to vote, right? So we're looking for a description that kind of matches what we're seeing with that there is kind of like this polarization at both ends, but in the middle it's the less conviction that they have, the less likely they are to vote. So A, at each point on the political orientation scale, high information voters were more likely to vote than low information voters. Is that true? High information voters. So yeah, that is true, because in every instance, right, the darker colored line, which is the higher information, is greater than that of the lower information, so that's a strong candidate. Only low information voters who identify as independents had a voting probability below 50%. I don't think that really ties into their claim. Yeah. The closer low information voters are to the ends of the political orientation scale, the more likely they were to vote. But that, again, I don't think really ties into the assertion that the researchers made. D, high information voters were more likely to identify as strong Republicans than low information voters were. I think, yeah, A is really what the most closely aligns to what the researchers had published with their data. 11, to investigate the effect of lizard predation on spider populations, a student in a biology class placed spiders into enclosures, one with lizards and one without, and tracked the number of spiders in the enclosure for 30 days. The student concluded that the reduction in the spider population count in the enclosure with lizards by day 30 was entirely attributable to the presence of lizards. Which choice best describes data from the graph that weaken? So again, just focusing on the student concluded that the reduction in spider population count in the enclosure with lizards by day 30 was entirely attributable to the presence of lizards. But on the other hand, both of them, right, are decreasing, right? So in some ways, it's not entirely attributable to the lizards. The spider population is decreasing regardless. So which choice best describes data from the graph that weaken the student's conclusion? So again, his conclusion that it's entirely attributable to spiders. So we're looking for a choice that kind of calls that into question. A, the spider population count was the same in both enclosures on day 1. I don't think there's really anything of significance with that there. B, the spider population count also substantially declined by day 30 in the enclosure without lizards. Yes, I think that's a strong candidate. C, the largest decline in spider population count in the enclosure with lizards occurred from day 1 to day 10. I don't really think that's even, I mean, that's just a specific observation that's not really identifying the entirety of the trends and calls into question the original assumption. D, the spider population count on day 30 was lower in the enclosure with lizards than with enclosure without lizards. No, that would support his original claim. So actually B is looking like the strongest choice that would weaken the original conclusion. Archaeologist Petra Vaglova, anthropologist Jin Liu, and their colleagues investigated the domestication of farm animals in China during the Bronze Age from approximately 2000 to 1000 BCE. By analyzing the chemical composition of the bones of sheep, goats, and cattle from this era, the team determined that wild plants make up the bulk of the sheep's and goats' diet, while cattle's diet consisted largely of millet, a crop cultivated by humans. The team concluded that the cattle were likely raised closer to human settlements where sheep and goats were allowed to roam farther away. So what did the two eat? The wild plants made up the bulk of sheep's and goats' diets, while cattle's diets largely consisted of millet, and it largely consisted of millet because they lived in close proximity to humans. So we're looking for something that strongly supports the team's conclusion that the diet was subsequently influenced by things that animals would eat when they lived closer to humans. A, analysis of the animal bones showed that the cattle's diet also consisted of wheat, which was widely cultivated in China during the Bronze Age. That's a strong candidate. B, further investigation of sheep and goat bones revealed that their diets consisted of small portions of millet and that would, I think, actually refute their conclusion. C, cattle's diets generally require larger amounts of food and greater variety of nutrients than do sheep's and goats' diet. There's really nothing in the passage about the nutrients whatsoever. D, the diets of sheep, goats, and cattle were found to vary based on what the farmers in each Bronze Age settlement could grow. No, there's nothing. We really want to have an option that references what the humans were growing, because we know that from the passage that cattle were in close proximity to humans, so it's A. Because if they were eating something other than millet, in which case they kind of give us an example of wheat, we would also see that the wheat that humans ate, because the cattle were in close proximity to it, it also showed up in the data. Sure. You can, just so you don't, try to keep the door open. Mosasaurs were large marine reptiles that lived in the late Cretaceous period, approximately 100 million to 66 million years ago. Selena Suarez, Alberto Huerta, and Lynn Harrell examined oxygen-18 isotopes and mosasaur tooth enamel in order to calculate likely mosasaur body temperatures and determined that mosasaurs were endothermic. That is, they used internal metabolic processes to maintain a stable body temperature and a variety of ambient temperatures. Suarez and Harrell claimed that endothermy would have enabled mosasaurs to include relatively cold polar waters in their range. So because they're endothermic, they can live in areas where there is cold water. And they did this through looking at, actually the first part isn't even relevant, the method that they did to determine that they were endothermic, or at least not yet. Let's go and look at the options. So which finding, if true, would most likely directly support their claim? Mosasaurs' likely body temperature are easier to determine from tooth enamel isotope data than body temperature. No, there's just, it's all over the place. B, fossils of both mosasaurs and non-endothermic marine reptiles have been found in roughly because the mosasaurs were endothermic. So if there's not endothermic reptiles in the same area, that would actually refute their position. C, several mosasaur fossils have been found in regions known to be near the poles during the late Cretaceous, while relatively few fossils. That really is, I think, the strongest one there, because the non-endothermic reptiles would not be able to live in areas where there's colder water near the poles. 14. Researchers hypothesized that a decline in the population of dusky sharks near the mid-Atlantic coast of North America led to a decline in the population of eastern oysters in the region. Dusky sharks do not typically consume eastern oysters, but do consume cownose rays, which are the main predator of the oyster. So you got free body problem. You got sharks that eat cow nose rays that eat oysters, right? So you got a kind of like a mathematical expression here. So if you increase sharks, you decrease the rays and you increase the oysters. And conversely, if you decrease the sharks, the rays would increase and the oysters would decrease. So that's really the expression that you're working with. So they're asking which finding, if true, would most likely directly support the researcher's hypothesis. So all of these descriptions are giving you the direction of the arrow, right? Declines in the regional abundance of dusky shark's prey other than cow nose rays. No, that one is just kind of going all over the place. B, eastern oyster abundance tends to be greater in areas with both dusky sharks and cow nose rays than in areas with only dusky sharks. So they're saying we're doing it in reverse. Greater abundance of oysters would mean less cow nose rays, and no, they're saying that the direction of those two arrows are the same. So that's not true. We know, based on the original arrows that we plotted out. C, consumption of eastern oysters by cow nose rays in the region substantially increased before the regional decline in dusky shark abundance began. Consumption, I gotta read that again. Consumption of eastern oysters by cow nose rays substantially increased before the regional, no. Before, I would expect that to, before dusky shark abundance began. Cow nose rays have increased in regional abundance as dusky, yeah, this one's the most straightforward. Because it says, as the sharks increase, the rays decrease. 15. Political scientists who favor the traditional view of voter behavior claim that voting in an election does not change a voter's attitude towards the candidates in an election. Focusing on each U.S. presidential election from 76 to 96, Ebenia, Washington, and Cedille tested this claim by distinguishing between subjects who had just become old enough to vote. Blah, blah, blah. All right, let's just skip it and go. Let's look at the last sentence in the passage. Washington and the other researcher compared the attitudes of the two groups of subjects toward the election. Wait, where's the declarative statement? Oh, it's in the first sentence. That voting in an election does not change a voter's attitude towards the candidate in an election. So they're saying, and they looked at two groups, one that could vote and one that couldn't vote, and then they asked those same people 2 years later how they felt. So if not voting, if voting has no impact, then people who vote and not vote have the same perception 2 years later. So that's really the option that we're looking for. We're looking for an option that basically is saying voting has no verifiable impact to the perception held by a group. So C, subjects who voted in a given election held significantly more polarized weaken the claim. So we need something that says there's almost, that there is something going on, that voting does influence the perception. So C, students who voted in a given election held significantly more polarized attitudes towards the winning candidates 2 years later than did subjects who were not old enough to vote. You can read through the rest, but that is really kind of in conflict with the original passage, which says that it's that there is no impact for voting. All right, same thing. We can focus for 16. Let's just, that last sentence, after we look at the data, The team produced ETLs of various thickness and concluded that spray coating holds promise for improving power conversion efficiency in solar cells. And really kind of what's going on here, spray coating is more efficient for both the highest and lowest performing. So it's asking which choice best describes the data from the graph that supports their conclusion. Okay, what's their conclusion? Spray coating holds promise for improving power. So spray coating's better, basically, than spin coating. Those are the two types of coating. So they're saying which of the options best represents their conclusion that spray coating is superior to that. So we're kind of looking for a specific generalization, right? In D, I think really exemplifies kind of what they're looking to express in that spray coating. Is that right? I'm gonna just double check. No, that's not right. It's B. The lowest performing ETL applied through spray coating had a higher power conversion efficiency than the highest performing ETL through spin and coating. Yeah, that's the better choice. '17. While attending school in New York City in the 1980s, Okwueya encountered few works by African artists in exhibitions, despite New York's reputation as one of the best places to view contemporary art from around the world. According to an arts journalist, later in his career as a renowned curator and art historian, the individual sought to remedy this deficiency not by focusing solely on modern African artists, but by showing how their work fits into the larger global context of modern art and art history. So for the options, we don't want something that just focuses solely on African art, but how their work fits into the larger global context. So A, I don't think is a very strong choice because it doesn't have anything to do with how it fits into the global modern art and art history. B could be an option. Let's see. Yeah, because it goes through a period of time, it references other artists, and it just kind of fits them into that time period. It's not solely an expression or exemplification of African art. So C, I don't really think C is even an accurate summary of the points referenced in the passage. And D, again, goes into specifically focusing on African art, and it doesn't go into that context of global modern art and art history. '18. For thousands of years, people in the Americas blank the bottle gourd, a large bitter fruit with a thick rind to make bottles, other types of containers, and even musical instruments. Oddly, there is no evidence that any other bottle gourd is native to the Western Hemisphere. Either the fruit or its seeds must have somehow been carried from Asia or Africa. Which choice completes the text so that it conforms to the standard conventions of modern English? All right, so for thousands of years, people in the Americas blank have blank the bottle gourd. Okay, so using, definitely, that's having used, no, that doesn't fit. To use, there's not a context, but a tense, a switching of tenses, so I don't think that's a good choice. Have used, because it happened in the past. 19. While many video game creators strive to make their graphics even more blank, others look to the past, developing titles with visuals inspired by the 8-bit games of the 80s and 90s. Which choice completes the text so that it conforms to the conventions of standard English? Even more blank, life, so we have two choices, lifelike and but. Do we include but? Well, let's see. I do think we include but, so that would eliminate B and C. But we need that comma, so that D is the best choice. In the 1950s, a man named Joseph McVicker was struggling to keep his business afloat when his sister-in-law, Kay Zufel, advised him to repurpose the company's product, a non-toxic clay-like substance for removing soot from wallpaper, as a modeling putty for kids. In addition, Zufel blank selling the product under a child-friendly name, Play-Doh. Had suggested maybe, suggested maybe, was suggesting no. So which one fits? It kind of see the tense in the previous sentence was advised, so I think suggested kind of fits in there. 21. Beatrix Potter is perhaps best known for writing and illustrating children's books such as The Tale of Peter Rabbit, 1902, but she also dedicated herself to mycology, the study of blank more than 350 paintings of the fungal species she observed in nature and submitting her research on spore germination to the Linnean Society of London. I don't think a period would work. C is a run-on sentence. So why would we use a why would we use a semicolon or a comma? So they say it's D, and the explanation they give is this choice correctly uses a comma to mark the boundary between the supplementary noun phrase, the study of fungi, that defines the term mycology, and the supplementary participle phrase, producing in London, that provides additional information about the extent to which Potter dedicated herself to mycology. 22. In assessing the films of Japanese director Akira Kurosawa, blank have missed his equally deep engagement with Japanese artistic traditions such as no theater. Which choice completes the text so that it conforms to the conventions of standard English? So we need a subject. So we're let in with the assessing who's doing that. We have to, the phrase that fits into that blank has to define who assessed the films of this Japanese director. So B is wrong because it doesn't define the subject. C is just really wordy. D, the focus of many, no, that's again, it's almost inside out. So A, many critics, because we have to reference that subject. Joshua Henson, the director of the Language Revitalization Program of the Chickasaw Nation in Oklahoma, helped produce the world's first indigenous language instructional app, Chickasaw Blank, Chickasaw TV in 2010, and a Rosetta Stone language course in Chickasaw in 2015. So first word is all basic, right? What do we notice here? It's followed by a date, right? And that date has a semicolon after it, right? So that would kind of clue me in that I'm looking for something that has a semicolon after 2009, right? Yeah, that's right. The 47 geothermal springs of Arkansas Hot Springs National Park are sourced via a process known as natural groundwater recharge, in which rainwater percolates downward through the earth. In this case, the porous rocks of the hills around Hot Blank collect in a subterranean basin. This sticks out to me. So I think that's a run-on sentence. I don't think you would use a semicolon there. What do they say? So they say, yes, you use a dash, and the reasoning they give is the dash after spring pairs with the dash after earth to separate the supplementary element, in this case, the porous rocks of the hills around Hot Springs, from the rest of the sentence. So it's, yes, it's using that dash similar to what was used earlier. Over 20 years ago, in a landmark experiment in the psychology of choice, Professor Sheena set up a jam testing booth at a grocery store. The number of jams available for tasting blank. Some shoppers had 24 different options, others only 6. Interestingly, the shoppers with fewer jams to choose from purchased more jam. Which choice completes the text so that it conforms to the conventions of standard English? All right, so varied. Do we include the while there? Yeah, it's almost like a comparison. I don't know. Although using a colon would give you the ability to kind of list off things. Yeah, they're saying you can. It's using the colon is correct, and they said the convention being tested is the use of a colon within a sentence. In this choice, the colon is used in a conventional way to introduce the following description of how the number of jams available varied. Nigerian author Bukky, celebrated literary, why do they do this? Includes The Joys of Motherhood, a novel about the changing roles of women in the 1950s. Blank. Lagos is a place, by the way. A television play about the private struggles of newlywed couple in Nigeria, and Head Above Water, her autobiography. So they use a comma after the title. So to keep with that convention, we can eliminate C and D, right? And let's see, they'd also, yeah, they're saying the semicolon, and the reason they say is the convention being tested is the punctuation of items in a complex series, a series including internal punctuation. In this choice, the semicolon after Lagos is conventionally used to separate the first item, the Joys ... Lagos, and the second item, a kind ... Nigeria in the series. This is practice. Oh. Home stretch. Chimamanda, 2013 novel Americana chronicles the divergent experiences of two people, a young Nigerian couple after high school. The first person moves to the United States to attend a prestigious university. Blank travels to London, hoping to start a career there. However, frustrated with the lack of opportunities, he soon returns to Nigeria. So, in fact, no. Secondly, no. Nevertheless, no. Meanwhile. Organisms have evolved a number of surprising adaptations to ensure their survival in adverse conditions. Tadpole shrimp embryos, blank, can pause development for over 10 years during extended periods of drought. Which choice completes the text with the most logical transition? So they're saying they have these adaptations In contrast, no, because that would be like the opposite of what they're trying to say. Consequently, no. Meanwhile, no. I think for example, right? Is that, yeah, or, yep, that's correct. Because they're giving a direct example of the generalization that they described in the first part. In 1933, the 20th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution was ratified. The amendment mandates that presidential inaugurations be held on January 20th, approximately 10 weeks after the November election. Blank, this amendment requires newly elected U.S. senators and representatives to be sworn in to their respective offices on January 3rd. So instead, no. For instance, that would be a continuation of the first. It's not a continuation for the first part, and specifically that would also imply a continuation of the reference to the presidential inauguration. So in addition, kind of creates that space between the two examples. 30, in her poetry collection, Thomas and Buela, Rita Dove interweaves the titular characters' personal stories with broader historical narratives. She places Thomas's journey from the American South to the Midwest in the early 1900s within the larger context of the Great Migration. Blank, Dove sets events from Buela's personal life against the backdrop of the U.S. Civil Rights Movement. So what do we got going on here? She places this journey within a larger context of a greater migration. Dove sets from her personal life against the backdrop of the Civil Rights Movement. So kind of one goes into two. Which choice completes the text with the most logical transition? So specifically would be a continuation of the migration from the South into the Midwest, but it's not. It's her personal life in the Civil Rights Movement. Thus, I think would be a continuation as well. So again, it doesn't give us the space between the two things that she's trying to kind of compare and parallel. Regardless, no, I don't think there's distance there. It similarly is kind of what ties the two together, but gives them enough distance to kind of stand on their own. 31. While researching a topic, a student has taken the following notes. The Philadelphia and Lancaster Turnpike was a road built between 1792 and 1794. It was the first private turnpike in the United States. It connected the cities of Philadelphia and Lancaster in the state of Pennsylvania. It was 62 miles long. The student wants to emphasize the distance covered by the turnpike, and it was 62 miles long, right? So in our answer, we should have some reference to distance. 62-mile long Philadelphia and Lancaster Turnpike connected the cities of Philadelphia and Lancaster. That could be it. The Philadelphia, no, there's no reference to distance. No reference to distance. And no reference to distance, so A. Gotta have that reference to distance. Emphasize the distance, right? While researching a topic, a student has taken the following notes. Most, but not all of, the moon's oxygen comes from the sun by a solar wind. Researcher from Osaka University wondered if some of the accounting for oxygen could be coming from Earth. In 2008, he analyzed the data from a Japanese satellite. He gathered that data about gases and particles that the satellite was orbiting the moon. And based on the data that came back, he confirmed his suspicion, underline that part, that the Earth is sending oxygen to the moon. The student wants to emphasize the aim of the research study. So that is the aim of the research study. He created an experiment, and he used a tool, a satellite, to determine how much oxygen was coming from, So, as it had orbited the moon, the satellite collected data that was later analyzed. I don't think that's really the aim of the study. B is not the aim of the study. C, it's either C or D. Let's just play them back. Oh, the aim of the study. So we're not diving into the results. We're talking about like the scope of the study. So yeah, C. While researching a topic, a student has taken the following notes. Ducklings expend up to 62.8 less energy when swimming behind their mom. The physics behind this energy savings isn't well understood. A researcher used a simulation to study the effect of the wake of the mother, which then again ties up to the first bullet point. And he noticed that it reduced the drag on the ducklings by 158%. So that also kind of ties back to that. The student wants to present the study and its methodology. So that's what we're not focusing on results. They want to study the results and the methodology. A study revealed that ducklings, which expend up to 62.8% less energy when swimming in a line behind their mother, are also. My brain is fried. Hold on, I gotta slow down. The student wants to present the study and its methodology. Study revealed. I don't know. I don't think they're seeking to understand how ducklings. I like this. No, this has nothing to do with. That's not a good summary, and this goes into the results. I think B really goes into the methodology. Yes, we did it.
You look very tired.
I'm very tired. Next week we'll go over the. Hopefully, I'd like to get attendance higher next week, and then next week we'll go through the whole thing.
We'll make sure to do that thing for you, for sure.
Oh man. Did you guys look up it exclusively at the projector? Did you ever look at the monitor?
I look only at the projector.
Okay. I figured I thought that I might like projector sucks. I might be able to use the monitors, but the monitors they don't display the text big enough to be useful.
This one might be able to,
Yeah, but it's still pretty small.
yeah, it's
I think,
fine.
unfortunately. So I think